Hi guys, it's Mark Zicree of Space Command, Mark Zicree, Mr. Sci-Fi, and I'm coming to you today with something very exciting, and I wanted to talk about how you can help, because for weeks we have been working to arrange to shoot a scene for Space Command with Nichelle Nichols, Star Trek's Uhura, and if we can raise enough money to shoot the scene in the next few days, we can actually do it. We could shoot as soon as next week. We have to fly Ethan McDowell, our star from Space Command, in from Atlanta. We have to, put together makeup and camera and all of that stuff. We have to hire a crew and all of that. So it's $15,000. So sounds like a lot of money, but it's only 2 shares in Space Command, $7,500 each. So anyone out there, if you guys have been thinking of buying shares in Space Command, this is a great opportunity, and we will actually credit you on Space Command as the ones who made the scene with Nichelle Nichols possible. It's an amazing, wonderful scene, and this would be her last acting in forever, ever. This is it. Many of you who've been going to conventions know that this is her farewell tour, and she wants to really give everything her best. And we've been really talking with her and her manager and her son about how to really deliver on this scene, and I feel very confident it'll be a wonderful scene. It'll be something that we can all have as a keepsake, and you could get credit for making this happen. So if you want to buy a share in Space Command, I'll send you the paperwork. You can write me a check for $7,500 or $15,000 for 2 shares. I want to make this happen, and so you can call me at 323-363-1259 to discuss this, or email me at markzicree@gmail.com. That's Mark with a C, as many of you know, markzicree@gmail.com. Additionally, I'm setting up a GoFundMe campaign so that if you can't afford $7,500, if you can afford 20 or 50 or 100 or 500 or 1,000, we might be able to get to 15 and be able to do everything we need to do to make this as wonderful as we can make it. We've written a scene. It's between Ethan McDowell, our star, and Nichelle Nichols, and I've wanted to work with her. Well, let's just put it this way. I have a very special history with Nichelle Nichols. Some of you know it. Most of you probably don't. But I'll tell you the story now, and I'm going to share some things with you that I've never shared with anyone. So this is really, really quite something. And it explains very much why I want to do this scene, why I want to bracket this. So let me start by telling you this. I grew up in LA. My parents were divorced when I was 3, and I think the need for escape sent me into science fiction. The need to get as far away as possible, and getting into space, I think, was very appealing to me. And it was the time of the Gemini astronauts and the Apollo astronauts, and I was a big devotee of science fiction, like the books behind me, the Heinlein Juveniles and so forth, Arthur C. Clarke I was reading voraciously. And when Star Trek came on, I was 10 years old, and it was really what I'd longed to have in my life, because the idea of going out on the Starship Enterprise, the idea of having these people who were a surrogate family, who were always there for each other, who were you could always count on them, really, really filled my heart, and it gave me a sense of hope for not just the future, but for my future, and it was enormously meaningful to me. And I was being raised by a single mom in LA, and she was going from job to job, and I was sort of this lonely, pale little kid, and she was dating at one point a guy named Eddie Leroy, and he had been one of the Bowery Boys in the Bowery Boy movies, and he'd even had his own comedy show on television in the 50s. He was a protege of Milton Berle, and it turned out that he had known Nichelle Nichols before she was on Star Trek. They were good friends, and I didn't know this, but one day when I was 10, it was during the 2nd season of Star Trek, Eddie picked me up and he said, "I've got a surprise for you." And he drove me to this apartment, he knocked on the door, and Nichelle Nichols opened the door. Now, this is when Star Trek is on the air, when she's playing Uhura. And she gave me this picture of herself. You can see it. It's signed to me. So it says, "To Mark," and it's many blessings. Love always, Nichelle Nichols. And there it is. And it actually just says love Nichelle. And so this was, of course, enormously wonderful to me. And she not only gave me this photo, and we're talking over 50 years ago, she also gave me her script. Her script. You can see it says Nichols on the top. This is mimeograph. This isn't Xerox. These are as rare as hen's teeth. This is an episode called Friday's Child by Dorothy Fontana, DC Fontana, and later, years later, when I was on panel with Dorothy Fontana, because we got to know each other, I had her sign this wonderful, wonderful script, and you can see this is just, amazing. It's got the revised blue pages. Every Uhura line is circled, and at the top, it says Friday's Child. It says, it's basically, this is her script. This is, when you watch that episode, Friday's Child, this is what she learned her lines from. And she gave this to me, this treasure, which I've kept my entire life. But more than that, and let me give you a sense of what I was like at that age, because at 12, this is a photo of me at 12 as a Vulcan. Can you see it? There you go. So that pretty much says everything. This is, while Star Trek was still on the air, I was 12 years old there, and that pretty much says it all. But here's something I'm going to share with you that I've never shared with anyone. And when I finished this amazing day with Nichelle Nichols, and she was very kind and very patient and she was wonderful. She was everything they talk about how actors sometimes aren't how they seem on the screen, that, that they can be terrible people. And that was not the case at all. I thought Uhura was just an amazing character, and who could not fall in love with Nichelle Nichols in that role when she's singing with Spock or doing all the other wonderful things she did on that show. And as a person, Nichelle was just phenomenal and kind, and to take the time for a 10-year-old boy and give him a signed photo and give him a script was amazing, remarkable. And so I wrote her a thank you letter, and this, I've never shared this with anyone, this is so close to my heart. I put it in the album I was keeping for Star Trek at the time when I was 10, and I've never read this to anyone, I've never shared it with anyone, but here's the letter that Nichelle wrote back to me, and I will read it to you because I think it's germane. So it's dated 12th January 1968, and she says, "My dear Mark, the pleasure of Sunday's last visit was mine. You are an extraordinary young man, and more important than your intelligence, you are a very warm and human being. Although we are now on hiatus, and the fate of the show has not yet been made known to us or the public, I will endeavor to get autographs for you from Gene Roddenberry, DC Fontana, and I know Ted Sturgeon personally. So as soon as as he returns to LA, I'll see what I can do about something more than just an autograph." Now, Theodore Sturgeon was one of the great writers of science fiction. He wrote 2 great episodes of Star Trek, Shore Leave and Amok Time, the one that established the mating habits of Vulcans. Great episode. And Theodore Sturgeon was also someone I'd been reading as a kid, his short stories, his novels, More Than Human. He was one of the legendary science fiction writers. So then she says, "Please extend my thanks to your mom for her lovely letter, and tell her you and I belong to a mutual admiration society consisting of you and I. Bless you and stay as you are. No, continue to grow as you are and in good health. Love, Nichelle." So isn't that remarkable? Now here's the cool part. So she was as good as her word. And so here's something this is a letter from Gene Roddenberry to me, and it's dated 1968, and this is on the official Star Trek stationery, and which I always loved, and then ultimately Theodore Sturgeon became a dear friend and mentor. This is so when I was a teenager, Ted was teaching me how to write and meeting with me and talking to me about life and telling me about shooting Star Trek. And this is a signed photo of Theodore Sturgeon that I took when I was a teenager, and Ted used this photo as his author's photo on several of his books. So Nichelle, what Nichelle did for me inspired me. It helped me to become the writer I became and the person I became. And I haven't, shared that letter with anyone, but you can see that she was looking to open a world of amazement and wonder to me. And so now here we are 50 years later, and she was signing at the Space Command booth when we were there at Comic-Con. She's an amazing woman, and I've so much want to shoot this scene with her, to be able to give back to her, to be able to thank her for what she did for me, for giving me this wonderful career and this wonderful life. There's no words that can describe that. And, $15,000 sounds like a lot, but it's pennies compared to what most things cost to shoot. That's like the catering budget for a day on a Paramount production. But again, this would be her last professional role as an actress, and it would be, I think, just wonderful. So if you want to contact me to buy Space Command shares, I would really be grateful. And if you can't swing that, there'll be a post at the bottom of this video that will link you to the GoFundMe campaign. And we have to make this happen in the next few days so that we can shoot her next week. And but I have faith in you guys. I have faith in all of us who love Star Trek and love Nichelle Nichols, that we can make this happen together. This is a wonderful thing. You know, it's funny because when she talks about we don't know yet if Star Trek is coming back, I was one of those who was picketing NBC. I was one of those writing letters to NBC. A million of us got that third season, got that season after the one that she was talking about. So, I mean, her influence on not just on me, but on millions of people has created a better world and a better life for so many of us. And for her to be part of Space Command would be a dream come true, but no more than that. It would just be everything coming full circle. So feel free to call me, feel free to email me. I think we can make this happen. I feel sure we can. And everyone who helps will get credited on Space Command as having made this happen. So thanks very much, and we'll talk real soon. Bye, guys.